Hi everyone, Kevin McDonald here, and I'm really excited today because I've got a couple of special guests. So I'm going to introduce in a moment Vito and Daniela Nanelli. They've started their property journey, and I want to talk to them a little bit about what they've been up to in property, the success they're having at the moment of their property journey, and maybe it can inspire you to either get started or look to do your next property deal. So welcome guys, thanks for joining us. How are you getting on today?
Yeah, we're all very good, thank you. Ready for another day. Got a very busy day actually, which is good. So yeah, we're good, aren't we?
Yeah, really good, really well at the moment. Thank you.
For anyone listening in and they're thinking like, who is Daniela? Who is Vito? Do you want to give a little intro about what you were doing before property? So what you were working at, what life was like, and then I guess what was that sort of moment that you decided, I want to get into property, I want to get started in property? How did that come about?
Well, I was actually an estate agent for 25 years. I had my own practice for 17 of those years, sales and letting agents, but I was always on the other side. And so I was actually dealing with investors and buyers and sellers, but never actually did it the other way until I sold my business 2 years ago in 2018. And then from then on, I actually took on a business brokerage where I'm was selling businesses for a living. And yeah, after that, I met Progressive. I found Progressive.
And for myself, so I spent the last 8 years working in hotels. So it's been a very interesting 8 years. So I've loved every moment of it, and I'm so glad that I've done that. And obviously my dad, Vito, introduced me to Progressive as well. So I think the stars aligned and we decided to work together, kind of put hospitality and estate agency, our experiences together to start our journey of Progressive.
So you've worked in an estate agency for years, working in like hospitality for years, going to get started in property. What was the first step on your journey? So what strategy do you choose? And I guess tell me a little bit about that first deal. How did it come about? What was it?
The first thing I wanted to actually say, Kevin, being an estate agent of 25 years, you think you know it all about property, but you don't. And I think coming to the Masopi event back in February 2020, it opens your mind. It opened up your mind completely to what is out there and the different strategies, which I was never aware of. And I know it sounds crazy. You thought, man, in 25 years in property should know it all, but he doesn't actually. So you guys did actually open my mind up. And, I looked at a few strategies. We looked at, do we want to do buy-to-lets? Do we want to do HMOs? But we settled on serviced accommodation.
You actually talked me into it because I said after 8 years in hospitality, the last thing I want to do is service apartments. I think I just wanted to get as far away as hospitality as possible. But you kind of spoke, a few people talked me into it. They said, look, you've got all this experience. You'd be silly not to do that as your first strategy. So then we started doing that together, didn't we?
Did a training course back in July last year, the serviced accommodation course online with Kevin Peneskis. And also signed up for the SA Mastermind as well. So we've been mentored, and we really started probably to go live. We looked for properties in November, didn't we? November, and we secured our first property at the end of November, and then we secured quickly afterwards two after that as well.
Okay, so we're now so you secured your first one in November and two more quickly afterwards.
Yes.
I always say to people that first deal is the hardest one, and once you get the first one, it sort of opens up the floodgates. Did you feel similar? What was the change in the sort of the belief when you get the keys to that first house?
Oh, it's amazing. It really is, and it actually, you think, wow, it does work. It can happen. I think you've just got to go and, you've said it many a time, you've got to go and take the actions. And I think every mentor that we've spoken to said, you've got the education, but you've got to take the actions. And I think that was the biggest thing. We could actually see it does work, even though you do get a lot of no's when you speak to the agents, but you don't need that many agents to actually say the yeses. So it's great to actually, for someone to say, we've got something for you, it can work, and we've got to accept it. And then shortly after that, we were offered two more properties. And now we're getting offered deals, without us even really looking for them as well, which is great.
I think it's stepping out of our comfort zone as well, because I hated calling all the agents up. That was the only way we got deals. I think with our first deal, the last agent you called on a Saturday at about 4 p.m. and that was our first deal. So I think you really have to push yourself
Very much.
When you mentioned there as well about how you worked in an agency for sort of like 20 odd years, and you touched on how when you came to Masapi, so Masapi, for anyone listening in, is prior to lockdown, Progressive ran an event called the Multiple Streams of Property Income, which is short for Masapi. And we touch on lots of different strategies and show you how to do different types of property strategies. So, and you mentioned that when you came to that event, your eyes were opened up to different things. Now, a lot of people who I meet starting in property, they've got this fear of speaking to an estate agent, that the agent knows more than them. What would you say to anyone who's listening in who maybe is at the start of the journey and they've got a little bit of a fear of approaching the agent or walking into the estate agency? I mean, my question really is, are estate agents human?
I don't know about that. I've been for 25 years, but I've been called a lot of things. Yes, they are human. I think it's who you deal with. I think they're actually afraid of you sometimes rather than the other way around. So I think don't be afraid of them. I think just be yourself. Tell them what you're after. Be transparent with them. Let them understand what you're actually trying to achieve, and the deals will come. The deals will come, definitely.
I think for me as well, because I think the difference with you and I is that you probably had more confidence in calling them. To be completely honest, I was so nervous in calling them, and I think the best thing to do, if you're probably a bit more like me, I had a script for the first month or so. So now I'm a lot more confident. We've got properties under our belt, so it's a lot easier. When you have no properties and you feel like you're blagging it as such, even though you're probably not, I think the best thing is definitely having a script with you, just to help you along.
Absolutely, yeah. And with agents, and when you're speaking to agents, you mentioned on that, you still get a lot of no's. How important is the mindset when you're facing those no's? What keeps you ringing the next agent when one of them says to you, you can't do that, or even worse? So how important is the mindset as well as the sort of the knowledge?
Mindset is everything. I think you've got to actually have the mindset is they don't understand. They don't want to get involved because they have a fear of thinking, what's this all about? Are we doing something wrong? So I think mindset is absolutely everything. Say it's not me, it's the fact that you don't understand. And I think there's two things then. You can either try to educate them to a degree and get them to understand. Some people just don't want it, and some people will listen to it, say, we've not done that before, can you explain a little bit more about it? So I think the fact that you have the knowledge does definitely give you the upper hand with the agents. And like I said, you don't need that many to work with to actually be successful.
Okay, I'm somebody as well, as when I came to training back originally the early 2000s, and then in the late 2000s, then finally in the early 2010s, before I got going, I used to hear people talk about different strategies and think, yeah, right, can't do that, very negative, etc. And one of my thought processes back then would have been, it's okay for you. You were an estate agent. No wonder you got success. So what would you say to somebody who's sitting in thinking, it's okay for you, you were an agent? Has being an estate agent helped you? Or what's the key things that really helped you get started in property? Did you benefit from being an agent? And I'd like to hear both people's points, because obviously, Daniela, you weren't an agent. But what would you say to the person who says, well, it was easy for you?
I actually think it's a disadvantage being an agent, to be honest with you, in a funny old way, because you're set in your ways. You don't go in with a clear mind, because after you've been educated and you know the actions you've got to take, I think you're sometimes you're actually think about, are they not going to understand it and come up with a block? Because I know what agents are like, and agents want simple, they want ease. So when they say no, I'm thinking myself, it's because you don't really want to actually work hard, or you don't really understand it. So I think if you're not an agent, I actually think it's actually advantageous, because you're going in with a completely clear script, a blank canvas. You know what you're talking about. They particularly don't, but at the same time, you've got no preconceived ideas on how they're going to actually react to you. The slight advantages is because you know how their mind works, it gives you a little bit of an insight to say, well, I know why you're saying that and not saying this. So you can then perhaps go around to convince them, not convince them, but actually educate them again, really, to say why you should be talking to us, why it's going to be beneficial to you. That's what agents want. They say, what's in it for them? So that's what probably has helped me. I'm thinking, well, it's not what's in it for me, but really, what can I do for you? And I think if you go with that mindset as well, that's helped me as well, quite honestly.
Awesome. And from Daniela, from your point of view, obviously not having that estate agency background, you went in kind of with the blank canvas. So do you think that gave you the advantage? Because what's interesting is you were the one, I think you mentioned earlier, that was doing the calls rather
We
than
both
Vito.
were actually. So
Right.
we were calling different areas, weren't we, at first? So at first I'm very headstrong. I think I am like my dad in that way. So I wanted my own business, and we shortly realized that we're getting nowhere having two businesses. We might as well join. So I'm quite headstrong in that way. To be honest with you, I think I moaned about agents a lot to my dad at first. So he got an earful from me about dealing with agents, and he tried to help me understand them. I think that was good about us working together. I was actually, I think I mentioned earlier, really nervous about calling the agents because I had that idea of them to be really difficult to work with. You do get a lot of no's, and that's a reality, but you have to keep going. We're talking about mindset as well. I think the thing is, when you find one that is willing to work with you, even if they have a property you don't think will work for SA, my piece of advice is go view that property anyways. You know it's not going to work. You might waste a bit of time of your day, but you're spending that time building the relationship with the agent. So an agent I actually did that with, he's shown me probably about 15 properties from seeing that first property I know would never work for us, for SA, maybe an AST, fantastic. But from that, we have a really good working relationship. So that's my piece of advice. If you do find someone that was willing to work with you, really work hard on building that relationship.
I think Daniela's hit the nail on the head there, building a relationship and being remembered, and people saying, well, I can call on Daniela, she'll come and have a look at this, you know, she's great. But I think you've actually hit the nail on the head there. Build relationships with the agents, with the people that they trust you, you trust them, and then you will get that call first, most definitely. It used to happen when I had the business as well. People that kept in contact with me were always in my mind, and I knew that I could always then give them a call if something came up that was of interest to them.
Excellent. Results-wise, you've mentioned you got your first deal, then you got two more really quickly. In terms of deals done at the moment, what sort of cash flow are you making per month with the properties you've currently got?
Yeah, when we started trading, Kevin, at the end of January, so really we've only had 2 months. Now we haven't made heaps. We're probably making about £500 per month over the first couple of months. But you got to remember, it's in a pandemic, it's in a lockdown. And we actually said that as long as we can break even in the first couple of months, we're absolutely, we're fine. But going forward, our bookings, we've got some lovely, juicy bookings coming forward over the next few months where the cash flow, to be honest, is probably going to treble. But we were delighted that we're in profit the first 2 months of trading rather than actually losing money. So that was our plan, not to lose money. But the fact that we're making about £500 a month in a pandemic, in a new business, we're really pleased with that, aren't we? But we obviously want to do more.
If you get into any other business, to be in profit in a business on opening the doors in your first couple of months, that's if you open up a clothes shop or an estate agent or something, to get into profit in the first 2 months, it's unheard of. So that's phenomenal as well. And a lot of people, when they're looking at maybe getting into a strategy, whether it be HMO or serviced accommodation like yourself or any type of property strategy, one of the big concerns they have is I don't have the money to get started. Roughly how much money are you putting into these deals?
We would probably say to set up our units, it's probably cost us about 5k each.
But we have set them up to a really high standard.
Really high standard. So I think you could do it for less, to be honest with you, but it's probably cost us 5k each. The biggest expense that we've had is the not doing it quick enough or fast enough setting them up. That's something we've had to learn the hard way by having them empty for a month longer than they should have been. But we've learned that. We've got processes in place now to make sure that we don't do it next one, and hopefully over the next few that we do. But about 5k per property.
And the 5k, what's that used to buy? What are you paying for with the 5k?
That's for furniture. That's for any maintenance that we need to just do just to get into to the standard that we want. So I probably would say that's 5K.
Yeah, interior designer.
Interior designer.
So for anyone starting out with no money thinking, oh, I don't have the 5K, well, you could lease the furniture. You could get a 0% interest credit card and put the money on the credit card and pay yourself back from the profit. So it's a really accessible way to get into property using the rent-to-rent strategy. So don't focus necessarily, if you're watching this, on the fact, oh, I need 5K. You need to spend 5K. You don't need to have the 5K. You can be creative on how you can make fridge freezers, washing machines. You can get them from Curry's PC World on buy now, pay later. You can get creative. So it's a really, really great way to get into property, get your step on the ladder and start making some money in property. So what's next, guys? What does the next 12 months, 9 months of 2021 hold? And where do you see yourself going over the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, well, we're talking to a lot more investors now. Investors are now starting to come to us as well. We've actually got a call with a London investor later on this afternoon who just reached out to us as well. We're getting into serviced accommodation management as well. So we will, any investor that's looking, who wants a better return on their money, we'll source them the property, we'll prepare the property for them. It'll be a turnkey. We'll manage it for them and give them their return as well. So that's something we're really quite keen on building. Ultimately, we do want to start buying as well. That's what we do. So we're looking at, potentially looking at a couple of units at the moment as well to buy.
In the pipeline,
So over the next 12 months, we want to continue on our journey with serviced accommodation. We want to build our management side up, and then, like I said, hopefully have 1 or 2 properties under our belt as well.
Yeah, and I want, in terms of the actual our SA units, I would think in the next few years, just with my experience from hotels, I really want to bring in the hospitality side as well, just because I think that's maybe sometimes what SA units are lacking. So bring in like loyalty schemes, so basically everything you get from a hotel and bring it into SA and make it as big as staying as big as staying in a hotel. So I want to kind of bring that in and really drive that as well.
Awesome. Some good ideas there. So how important do you feel that the education was to getting you to where you are now?
It's everything, Kevin. And I'm not just saying it because you're in front of me now, because the biggest thing that I had to overcome was mindset. And I think Progressive and a few others as well, the education, really, really important. Because with the education comes how you change your mindset and your beliefs. And also the accountability. I think without accountability, I think a lot of people will just fall by the side. It's great having the education. I've heard you say it, but if you don't take the action, it means nothing. So we couldn't have started what we have, but without Progressive. Progressive being a big stepping stone for us, and we've met some amazing people along the way, and also from the community. And it does change your whole thinking, because in the community, everybody is supportive of each other, and everybody actually wants you to do really, really well. And we're all supporting each other. And I think that's amazing, which is unheard of in a lot of industries. I think it's your mind. It's changing your mindset, but you have to start that with your education. The education helps you do that. And then the mentors making you take the actions, because without actions, you can't. You just won't actually.
Especially the first step. I think the first step is always the hardest.
Yeah.
That's what we kind of struggled with, and then from there, you just keep going. Really, keep pushing yourself. And
we will continue with the education. I think it's not a case of saying, "Oh, I know it all." I think we will continue with the education, because I think having a mentor is really, really important. And I would recommend it to anybody, and anybody's looking to start out in property.
I was just going to say, what if there's somebody listening to this right now and they're thinking, I want to get into property, I want to get started in property, and maybe they tried it and it didn't quite work out for them, and they hit a few roadblocks, and they're looking to think, maybe should I get restarted? What would you say to them if they're sort of at that point of, I really want to do it, but I'm not sure I can?
Do it. Yeah. Do it. Take the actions. Put it on your credit card. You will get your return back, and the confidence it gives you, the people that you meet, it's like no other. Do it, and do it sooner rather than later, but you've got to want to do it.
Yeah.
It's not a case of saying someone else is telling you got to do it. You've got to want to do it yourself. So I would say go out and do it.
And from my side as well, I think I was stuck in a long 9-to-5 job, working in London, doing the 3-hour commute each day. I really wanted it, but I couldn't vision it, and a year ago I would have never thought we'd be in this position. I'm that sort of person who has these big dreams, but I'd never take the first step to making them happen. So I think if you are like me, just go for it, because honestly it's the best thing we've ever done, and I feel we've got a long way to go, but we're almost there, and we're a year in. I think we've only got more things to come.
And also when you make mistakes and you've actually got people around you, your mentors around you, good people around you, the mistakes won't be as big. You will hit roadblocks, you will make mistakes, you will learn from them, but by having the right people around you, they won't be as big, or they won't be as costly. And I think you've said it before, Kevin, if you think education's expensive, what is it you say about the ignorance is even more expensive? So get educated, don't make as big a mistakes, you won't lose the money, you will go forward, but take the actions.
Awesome advice, guys. And like, I just want to share something with you as well before we wrap this up, is that when I started in my first sort of year with Progressive, I didn't do as much as you've done. So, and we sort of look at that where we are at the moment, and we totally miss where we'll be in 5, 6, 7 years time. And you're going to do awesome stuff, and I can't wait to sort of watch your journey and watch your growth over the next 2, 3, 5, 7 years, because this is just the beginning for you guys. And based on your start, you're going to do absolutely amazing things. So I just want to say thank you for coming on, for sharing that little bit of your journey with us. Maybe in a year's time, we'll do another one of these and see where you're at then. And I really appreciate you taking time. So guys, you've been listening to one of our success stories, or a couple of our success stories here at Progressive Property. I hope you found it valuable. I want to say a massive thank you to Daniela and Vito for joining us, and look forward to watching your journey. I've been Kevin McDonald. You've been absolutely awesome. See you next time.